Welcome back to Inner Purpose Therapy. We're so glad to have you with us. Today, we're diving into a new episode of our ongoing addiction series. In this episode, we'll be unraveling the intricate web of peer pressure, a phenomenon that's far more complex and deeply rooted in our human nature than we might think. Peer pressure, often seen as an issue primarily faced by adolescents, is actually a universal experience that can continue to influence our decisions, behaviors, and even our identities throughout our lives. It can sway us to make choices that align with the group's expectations, sometimes even at the cost of our own well-being. But why does this happen? What's the history behind this, and most importantly, how can we navigate it? Stick around as we delve into the history of peer pressure, its relation to substance use, debunk some common myths, and provide you with tools to say no when you need to. Remember, in this journey of self-discovery and growth, you're not alone. So, let's get started. Have you ever wondered why peer pressure is such a powerful force? The answer lies deep in our history as humans. Picture this: early humans huddled together in groups, dependent on each other for survival. In the harsh and unforgiving environment, being ostracized was more than just a social setback. It was a death sentence. So, naturally, they conformed to the group's norms and customs. This sense of conformity was, and still is, an ingrained survival instinct. Fast forward to the present day, we're often encouraged to be individuals, to stand out from the crowd, but despite this, we're still tethered to the opinions and perspectives of those around us. As the saying goes, no man is an island. We're wired to seek social approval, to want to fit in. This inherent need to be part of a group, to be accepted, isn't a flaw, it's simply a part of our human programming. However, this desire to conform can sometimes lead us astray. It can push us to sideline our values, to engage in activities we might not otherwise choose for ourselves. Take drug use or excessive drinking as an example. Some might participate in these activities to fit in, to be seen as cool, or even out of fear of rejection. This drive to conform can be especially influential when we find ourselves in new environments or situations like starting university. When we interact with others and are accepted, our brains reward us with a boost of serotonin and dopamine, the chemicals responsible for feelings of happiness. Interestingly, these are the same chemicals that are released when someone uses drugs. So, the brain begins to associate the euphoria of drug use with the joy of social acceptance, creating a powerful combination that it craves over and over again. If you ever find yourself feeling pressured to engage in activities that go against your values, take a moment to reflect. Ask yourself why you feel the need to conform, even if it's something you're uncomfortable with. Remember, it's natural to want to fit in, but it's also important to stay true to yourself. However, this need to fit in can sometimes lead us to make choices that go against our values or could be harmful to us. One such damaging behavior that people often fall into because of peer pressure is the use of drugs and alcohol. It's a scenario that plays out repeatedly. A desire to fit in, to be seen as cool, can lead people to engage in substance use, even when they know the risks. It's a classic example of the power of peer pressure. Consider the transition to university. It's a new environment, filled with new faces. There's a need to establish your standing in the group, often on an unconscious level. In these situations, the pressure to conform can be particularly strong, leading people to engage in behaviors they might otherwise avoid. That might mean taking drugs or drinking more than they're comfortable with, all in the name of social acceptance. But why does this happen? It's all about our brain chemistry. When we interact with others and feel accepted, our brains release serotonin and dopamine, neurotransmitters associated with feelings of happiness and pleasure. The same neurotransmitters are also released when people use drugs, leading to a double dose of pleasure. Once the brain has tasted this reward, it naturally craves more. This potent combination of social acceptance and the brain's reward system can make it incredibly difficult to resist the pressure to use substances. It's not just about wanting to fit in, it's about the powerful physiological responses that reinforce these behaviors. But it's crucial to remember that you have a choice. If you find yourself feeling pressured to use drugs or drink more than you'd like, take a moment to ask yourself why. Are you doing it because you genuinely want to, or because you're afraid of rejection? Reflecting on these motivations can provide valuable insight and help you make decisions that align with your values and beliefs. The brain's powerful reward system, combined with the desire for social acceptance, can make it difficult to resist the pressure to use substances. But remember, it's your choice. It's your life. and you have the power to say no. It's important to remember it's not everyone who's doing it, and you have the power to say no. The idea that everyone is indulging in drugs or alcohol is far from reality. It's a myth that's been perpetuated, perhaps to justify certain actions or to create an illusion of normalcy. Let's consider a study by the National Union of Students which found that around 39% of students were using drugs in 2018 at university in the UK. While that's a significant number, it's far from everyone. More recently, that number has dropped to 28% in 2024, so when you feel like you're the only one not participating, remember, you're not alone. Now, let's talk about self-reflection. When you're feeling pressured, take a moment to ask yourself, why? Why do you feel the need to conform to behaviors that you might not agree with, or even enjoy? Is it the fear of rejection, or perhaps a desire to fit in? These are valid emotions, but it's important to be honest with yourself and recognize them for what they are. After all, you're not just dealing with pressure, you're dealing with your own emotions and values. It's about your choices and your life. Saying no can be tough, especially when you're worried about the reactions of others. But remember, you're under no obligation to justify your choices, especially when it comes to substances that can potentially harm you. You're allowed to set your boundaries and stick to them. And here's the thing, saying no doesn't make you weak or uncool. On the contrary, it takes strength and courage to stand up for what you believe in. It shows that you're confident, that you respect yourself and your values. You might even inspire others to do the same. So the next time you're faced with a situation where you feel pressured to use drugs or alcohol, remember, it's okay to say no. It's okay to choose what's best for you, even if it goes against the grain. Standing your ground and sticking to your values is empowering. You don't need to justify your decisions to anyone. Now that we've understood the importance of saying no, and debunking the myths around peer pressure, let's look at some strategies to help you resist these pressures. Firstly, let's talk about self-esteem. When you value yourself and have a clear understanding of your worth, it becomes easier to resist pressure from others. You know what's best for you, and you don't need to compromise your values or well-being to fit in. So work on building your self-esteem. This might involve acknowledging your strengths, setting and achieving personal goals, or even seeking professional help if you're finding it particularly challenging. Next, surround yourself with positive influences. Find friends who respect your choices and support you in staying true to your values. These are the people who will stand by you when you say no, and won't pressure you into doing things you're uncomfortable with. Finally, practice assertive communication. This involves expressing your feelings and desires clearly and respectfully, without undermining your rights or those of others. For example, if someone is pressuring you to try a substance, you could say something like, "I appreciate your suggestion, but I choose not to use that." It's concise, respectful, and leaves no room for negotiation. Remember, these strategies are tools for you to use. It's about standing up for yourself, building your resilience, and making choices that align with your values and well-being. And don't forget, it's okay to ask for help. Reach out to a trusted adult, a mentor, or a helpline if you're finding it hard to resist peer pressure. You're not alone in this. Let's delve deeper into some strategies that can help you resist the pressures to use drugs or alcohol. It's important to clarify your personal beliefs about substances. Ask yourself, how do you feel about drugs? Are there some you'd like to try and others you want to avoid? What do you believe are the risks and benefits of taking drugs? How do you feel about others taking drugs? These reflections can help you establish your boundaries and stick to them. Next, let's consider how you'll handle scenarios where you might be offered drugs when you don't want to or don't feel like taking any. A simple no, thank you, should suffice, but what if someone pushes you or tries to make you feel bad for not joining in? It's good to have a plan in place for how to respond in these situations. Ideally, try to avoid being around people who use drugs or drink excessively. Seek out groups where people engage in other fun, healthy activities. Maybe there's a club or society that interests you, or you might find a volunteering opportunity or a part-time job in your local area. Lastly, arm yourself with knowledge. Educate yourself about drugs and their effects. Understanding what substances do and how they can impact your life can boost your confidence to resist the pressure to use them. There are many resources available, such as Talk to Frank or Release, that offer online, non-judgmental information and advice for free. Despite the normalization of drug use and excessive drinking in certain social circles, remember that only you should have the power to make decisions about your own life. Your well-being and health are paramount. Stand firm in your choices and don't let anyone sway you off your path. Moving on to our summary and conclusion, let's recap the main points we've discussed today. We started with the historical origins of peer pressure, harking back to our early human ancestors needed to conform for survival. This instinctive to fit in still influences us today, often leading us astray, especially when it comes to substance use. We delved into the role of peer pressure in drug and alcohol use, explaining how the desire for social acceptance, coupled with the chemical rush from these substances, can create a powerful pull towards behaviors that might not align with our values. Most importantly, we explored the power of self-reflection and the importance of saying no. It's crucial to understand that the everyone is doing it notion a myth. You have the right to make your own decisions without feeling pressured. Remember, your decisions are yours alone, and it's okay to say stay true to yourself and don't let peer pressure dictate your choices. As we wrap up today's episode on peer pressure, episode 2 of our Addiction and the Sober Truth series, we would like to thank you for joining us today at Inner Purpose Therapy. As always, leave a like, comment, and share with others in need, and if you haven't done so already, please consider subscribing to our channel where we create mental health content for all.